A major new Russian offensive in Ukraine is already underway. That's according to NATO and Ukrainian officials who say Moscow has spent weeks bolstering troops in eastern Ukraine ahead of the war's one-year anniversary on February 24th.
What Russia does now, President Putin do now, is to send in thousands of more troops, accepting a very high rate of casualty.
Знаємо, що планують окупанти. Протидіємо.
New tanks and weapons that Ukraine is waiting to get from the West may not arrive in time to hold back the Russians.
Both sides are preparing both for offensive action and defensive action. We are coming up to a significant moment in the war. What Ukraine can do with the new forces and the new weapons it gets from the West will be critical.
As winter gives way to spring, here's how Ukraine or Russia may try to gain the upper hand in the coming months. Military analysts say the pace of the war slowed down over winter, but there were key moments. Last November, Ukraine retook Kherson, the only provincial capital to fall to Russia since the start of the war. Moscow has been trying to regain momentum. Russia took the eastern Ukrainian town of Soledar and the village of Klishivka in January, and in the south, forces have launched an offensive in the Zaporizhzhia region. Bakhmut in eastern Ukraine has been Russia's main priority, according to military analysts.
In Bakhmut, there's been, for the last few months, significant exchanges of artillery fire. People have compared it to kind of First World War battlefield in which there's very little movement of the front lines, but huge exchanges of artillery.
Bakhmut's population before the war was around 80,000. Ukrainian commanders say only 2,000 remain. Russian media have played up its strategic value. A victory, while symbolic, would be a major boost to troop morale. To hold the Donbas region, Ukraine says weapons from the US and European allies will play a crucial role. Over the next few months, Ukraine is expected to receive more Western weapons, including air defense systems such as the Patriots, tanks, Leopard 2, Challenger 2, and M1 Abrams, and other armored vehicles.
The Ukrainians have shown themselves pretty efficient in warfare with tanks. Their people know how to use them, but they will need training on the different systems coming in from the West, and that will be something that will need to happen in the coming months.
Ukrainian forces have begun training in the US, Britain, Germany, and Spain, but analysts say it could be months before they're fully up to speed. Russia accused the West of trying to prolong the conflict by supplying weapons to Ukraine.
Захватывать наши территории, фактически такие шаги втягивают страны НАТО в конфликт и могут привести к непредсказуемому уровню его эскалации.
Meanwhile, Russia spent months training thousands of troops in the country's west and in Belarus. According to Ukrainian officials, hundreds of thousands of troops have been mobilized for the offensive in the Donbas.
The Ukrainians, on their part, would be looking largely to make further gains in the south toward Melitopol, and also act to sort of cut a supply line, a road between the towns of Svatove and Kremina.
Russia will likely want to push the Ukrainians further back in the south so they don't threaten supply lines, in particular those between Donbas in the east and Crimea, which the Russians control in the south. Russia has used the winter to regroup, but Western officials say they don't expect the Russians to make major territorial gains in the coming weeks. And they hope that with new weapons, Ukraine can hold Russian forces back while building on the momentum they had last year.
The Western officials that one talks to don't seem to believe that the war will be over this year. So although it may be, it's a very important and potentially decisive phase ahead, there is no widespread expectation, I don't think, that the war will end in 2023.